Hi there, welcome back to a new horror video, and this video is from where I left off really from the last video. It was all about brief history on Vlad the Impaler, and now I've moved on from that, and I've decided to do a little brief history on the author Bram Stoker, the creator of Dracula, and just in my book here on Vlad the Impaler. A picture just inside there of Bram Stoker, and that painting on this side, or drawing, or whatever it was, which is around 1500s, which is of Vlad the Impaler dining amongst his victims on paled spikes, and a servant there cutting up bodies, so he's there feasting on their blood. So yeah, so pretty gruesome for medieval times, but that's a Victorian picture there of the author of Dracula. And this book here I've got, which is an old edition of the novel of Dracula. I'm not sure how old it is. It could be 1930s, 40s, or it could be early 1900s. There's not an actual proper date inside this book. It's a really nice collectible piece to have. But it's got copyright 1897, but of course it wouldn't be the original first edition. But it's a nice addition to have to the Dracula collection as being an older book. But what was also even more interesting is that there was a little note inside that was actually in Bram's own handwriting. This is all original Bram Stoker's writing, and then it's signed at the bottom here by Henry Irving, who was his business partner at the times, which I'll get onto that in a little bit. But because it's really old handwriting to read that, so I've translated it here on this bit of paper, and basically it just says, "Dear Modius, with the greatest pleasure and all good wishes, faithfully, Sir Henry Irving." So it's a really nice little note. They're not uncommon. There's a lot of letters with Bram Stoker's writing, but he has not signed it. I always got a bit confused why it was Bram Stoker not signed it, but he's written the letter, but never actually signs it in his name. And it's because he was like manager and secretary to Henry Irving, and he always wrote the letters. Henry Irving signed them. So there you go. But it's nice to have an original piece of original letter in Bram Stoker's handwriting and his business partner Henry Irving. So just a little brief history on Bram Stoker and Henry Irving. So just referring to my notes, you've got Bram Stoker. He was born Abraham Bram Stoker, 8th November 1847, Dublin, Ireland, best known today for his 1897 Gothic novel Dracula. He was bedridden with an unknown illness until he started school at the age of 7 or thereabouts, and then he made a complete recovery. Stoker became interested in theatre and became a theatre critic for the Dublin Evening Mail. December 1876, he gave a review. So this is interesting. This is when he met Henry Irving. He gave a review for Henry Irving Hamlet. So he was playing Hamlet at the time at the Theatre Royal, Dublin. Irving invited Stoker for dinner. They became friends. So that's how it all started between the two. And in 1878, Stoker married Florence Balcom, or Balcom. I do apologise if I get any words wrong, or slightly different, but I'll try to keep it as accurate as possible. So I'll just hold that up. That's the original note with Bram Stoker and Henry Irving. So So Stoker moved to London when they were married, when he was married to Florence, and became acting manager and then business manager of Irving's Lincoln Theatre, London. A post held for the next 27 years. Bram and Florence's only child was born a son, christened Irving Noel Thornley Stoker, so he used the same name as his business partner, working for Irving, the most famous actor of his time. So you've got to remember, this is before cinema, so this was all stage work, so he was the biggest actor of the day. So he was working for Irving, the most famous actor of his time, and managing one of the most successful theatres in London. Bram idolised Irving. Bram and Henry Irving travelled the world together. I think quite a lot in America or New York. So obviously to do with the acting business. Stoker visited Whitby in 1890, and that visit was said to be part of inspiration for Dracula. He was writing novels while working as manager for Henry Irving and secretary, which became eventually, he did Bram Stoker's Dracula, which was 1897. Bram Stoker spent several years researching European folklore and stories of vampires. The Count in Stoker's novel was based on Vlad III and researched on the Romanian prince and the Impaler. So just a quick look at this. This is another Vlad the Impaler figure that I have. Like I showed with the previous one, which is more of a statue. This is more of like a model or like a doll type figure. But this is made by Sideshow Collectibles, which are very famous for all their figures of different film stars and what have you. But this is the historical figure. I'm not sure if you can just about see that. But he never comes out of his box. He always stays in his box. But he's got all his accessories, his swords, and his cup full of blood there. And then brief history here on Vlad. But I really love his coat, which is a Wallachian fur coat he's got on there, and that's a Turkish style sword he's got there. But a really great item and really sought after and collectible piece to have on anything to do with Vlad III or Vlad the Impaler. So yeah, it's a really cool item there. And then with the success of Bram Stoker's novel Dracula over the years, there have been a whole category of theatre productions, plays, films, TV shows, books, even comics, to name a few. It's one of the most famous books in horror known around the world today. And then Bram Stoker's death on the 20th of April 1912, after suffering a number of strokes in London. He was cremated aged 64. So there you go, there's a brief history on Bram Stoker. I mean, his death has been sort of mixed about a bit, but as far as we know, with the history or history facts, it was caused by a stroke. That was the cause of death. And then just a little bit later on, after that, you had this film. The film based on Bram Stoker's Dracula was F.W. Murnau's Nosferatu, released in 1922, with Max Schreck. I think I've got that right. I'm not sure I pronounced his name right, but I hope it's right. Starring as Count Orlok, Florence Stoker, who was Bram's wife, eventually sued the filmmakers. Her legal complaint was that she had neither been asked permission for the adaptation or paid any royalty. So Mrs. Stoker demanding the destruction of the negative of all prints of the film. A single print of the film survived and has become well known, and it was the first authorised film version of Dracula. So really this is like the very first version of Dracula, which he's kind of portrayed as he's got like a sort of a rat kind of features, pointed nose, and sort of pointed ears, as you can see just the bust just behind me there. You can just see there, that's a bust based on the Count Orlok Nosferatu figure, which is very, very different to the Bram Stoker's Dracula creation. But he's got very sort of pointed ears and two pointed teeth at the front, and really creepy and freaky kind of character. But it was the first sort of official sort of vampire on the big screen. And then just on from that, my three other most favourite actors or vampires in films. The first one was Christopher Lee. So from this DVD, you've got Taste the Blood of Dracula, which is one of the many Christopher Lee vampire films I have. But I grew up watching the Hammer horror films with Christopher Lee and absolutely loved his Dracula. And to this day, I still think he's really great vampire. And then the other vampire, which is the early one, which is from 1931, Dracula, which was played by Bela Lugosi. Again, really great, creepy, slow-moving, first official Dracula film, I think. But his portrayal of Count Dracula is absolutely brilliant. And I love his line at the beginning of the film where he stood on the steps of the castle, where he says, listen to the wolves outside, where he says listen to them or something, creatures of the night, what music they make. So really great line from the film. And then finally you've got Bram Stoker's Dracula, which is a little bit later on, which is 1992, which is played by Gary Oldman, again another great actor that I've admired. And his performance in this film is absolutely outstanding. A really brilliant film, also with a whole lead of Winona Ryder and Anthony Hopkins and Keanu Reeves in a very early role. So really great film. His portrayal of Dracula in this film also. So yeah, so there it is for this one, for this video, and I hope you enjoyed it. A brief history on Bram Stoker, the creator and author of Dracula, and a little bit more on Vlad the Impaler. So thanks very much. Bye.